Hello, good evening. This is Blue Sky Citadel Introduction to Mobile Testing session. My name is Tokwe Shidende, and I'll be taking the session for this evening. And well, basically tonight we'll be looking at Introduction to Mobile Testing. The agenda is what is mobile testing, types of mobile platforms, types of mobile applications, types of mobile devices, challenges, importance, and criticalities of mobile app testing. What are the best practices for a tester in mobile app testing? Categories of mobile app testing and mobile testing tools. Now, what is mobile app testing? What is the concept? You'll find out that a lot of the companies now have mobile applications, which makes it easier for users or for or their customers to have good experiences for their products and services. You will find banks like TSB and other companies, maybe like video entertainment companies having mobile applications, even e-commerce companies as well having mobile applications, and then just to ensure that their customer have good experience, and also to improve their sales, and also to enhance their reach and all that. Now, what is mobile app testing? When you talk about mobile app testing, you're looking at testing the application and not the actual mobile device. Now, it's actually about looking at the application, such as, for instance, a lot of us have banking applications on our mobile phones that we test. It's looking at testing the mobile browsers or other applications, like, for instance, we have WhatsApp. We have Facebook's, application on our mobile devices, which you download or access directly from mobile browsers. Now, it's also about the mobile app testing also looks at performance, how your application is performing. It looks at the security. Is your application secured enough for hackers or for other people to break into it and destroy your data or destroy the application as a whole? Mobile app testing also looks at integration. When you download an application onto your mobile device or onto your, for instance, onto your tablets, it looks at how does the device work with other applications. Is there any conflict, and are there any issues, with maybe like the configuration, the settings, and all that? And it's also about looking at the installation. How long will it take for you to download the application? How long will it take for the application to it looks like the update as well as looking at functional and non-functional issues with your mobile app testing. It also looks at, a lot of us have applications now that such as Netflix, that we watch on our mobile devices. How will your application behave when you change the orientation, when the battery is low, when you move from one network to another? For instance, if you are moving from your mobile network to your Wi-Fi, how will that application behave? Or what will happen when the battery is down and all that? And it also involves, mobile application testing involves looking at this application on a variety of devices. Now we have so many devices in the market. We have thousands of devices, lots of browsers. How will this application perform on each and every one of these versions and types of devices and all that? Now, as part of this mobile application testing training, we'll be looking at manual testing of mobile apps and a bit of automation as well. Now, mobile platforms. Currently, there are lots of mobile platforms in the market. We have there are different types of operating systems. There are different types of devices, and there are different types of mobile applications as well. Now, for the operating system, we have the Android one, which is very popular, developed by Google Incorporation, and the popularity is quite high. We have iOS, which is developed by Apple, and a lot of us are, have both Androids and iOS devices every day. They are part of our daily lives, and it's important that testers have good understanding of what the operating system is for them to be able to test the application successfully, and for them to be able to deliver the products that the owners have requested, and for the customers to be able to have good experience. Other known operating systems are BlackBerry. There was a time when BlackBerry was in vogue. We have Windows operating system that we use every day, both in our homes and in our offices. And then there's the Symbian one, which is very low in popularity. A lot of tablets, a lot of devices are Symbian, but they are not so common as they were before, and all that. Now we have different types of devices. We have uh, tablets, we have e-book readers, and we have smartphones. Tablets and smartphones, they fall into the categories of mobile device types that are common and popular among everyone. Yeah. Now, what's mobile application types? So we have three types of mobile apps. We have the mobile web. When you go onto your phone, you find out the browser that you use is a mobile web. Now, web applications are not real applications. You have to go on. You have to enter a URL, a website, and then navigate for you to be able to open up that web page. Now, these are actually websites that are open in your smartphones with the help of the web browser. An example of a mobile web is the BBC, Gmail, and Yahoo. We have other types. So basically, any mobile application, even YouTube, is a mobile web because you are able to navigate, with the URL to YouTube to be able to open it up, and So these are the kind of web applications that one can test. Now, the benefits of a mobile web is there are cheaper options for delivering a mobile user experience. They have common use for news, for e-commerce. A lot of us go on to the e-commerce websites on our mobile devices. These are, to be able to buy and shop and do all things. Social apps as well, Facebook, and all that. So because of the way they are easy to access, that's one of the benefits of the mobile web. And then they are easy to develop as well because once they are being developed, uh, you can either access them on a desktop or a mobile application. And one thing that we should know is that a lot of these websites, once they are developed, they are easily, they are adaptable for for mobile access as well. And they are easy to update and deploy, and you don't have to install them compared to other types of mobile applications. And then one of the disadvantages of of using them is that they are not available offline. Once the website goes down, then they become inaccessible, and you don't have any because you can't install them. They are not installable. There's no application there's no icon on the home screen for you to call them up and to access them. Now, the only way to use them is to be able to open them in a web browser only.
Yep.
Now, now the next type of mobile application type is the native app. Now, example of a native app is the popular one that we know very well, WhatsApp. These are actually apps that you install, download, and install on your mobile devices. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that the reason why we are going through this is so that we have an understanding of what a mobile application is and the various types, so that when we start working as a tester, we know what to look out for. We know how to plan our testing strategy, and we know how to develop our test cases and our test data in order to be able to test them properly. Now, native apps are installed. You have to install them from either the App Store, Google or Apple Play Store. Sorry, the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And a lot of the examples that we have are WhatsApp, Facebook, Spotify, and and others. Now, the benefit of this is that they are easily accessed through icons on your devices. You can These applications take full advantage of all your device features. They can make use of a camera. For instance, you can, as we use in WhatsApp, you can call WhatsApp to talk to your camera and then take pictures and then send it around. They also make use of your GPS, your location, contact list, and so on and so forth. Now, they give you notifications when you're offline, and they can also give you give you push notifications when a new device or a new piece of content is published, or when an attention is required. Now, native apps maintain one of the advantages of native app is that because they are specifically built for each devices and each operating system, their design and orientation differs from application to application here. So the way your application will behave the way a native application will behave on an iOS device will be different on an Android device, and also the UI design, the outlook of that application will also differ as well. Now, one of the things to consider about one of the downsides or the disadvantages of native app is that the cost is high, because as a tester, as a developer or a product owner, you would have to ensure that your application works on so many devices. You would have to ensure that there's consistency for your app on so many devices, and you'd have to customize your applications to work on each and every one of these devices that are out there in the market. So there's high cost for building the app. They are specific to platforms, and they are specific and sometimes they might also be specific to versions as well. So for instance, if you have an application for an e-commerce website, and Apple updates a version of their operating system, you might need to make some configuration changes to adapt to the new changes which Apple has just published in their operating system. So these are the kind of things that make it hard, and that makes it expensive for developers and all that, yeah, and owners of the app as well. Now, one other thing apart from that is that you'll find out that, for instance, an application like Facebook, despite the fact that it has its own native app, they also maintain a website version of the application as well. So these are the kind of things that make the native apps difficult to maintain, because you have to keep two versions of it. One is the native app, and one is the website app as well, which makes it difficult for maintenance and also and all that. Yeah. Now, as I said earlier, they are specific to operating systems, and you'd have to keep up with changes in version, in configuration, and all that. and also as new apps and new as new devices come up, you'd have to also ensure that your application is able to work on them as well. Now, the third type of mobile app is hybrid app. Now, hybrid app, they are just the mixture of both the web app and the native app. So, for instance, you will find Instagram. Instagram is a form of hybrid app, and also Twitter is a form of hybrid app because you can either use them as you can either download them and to use them on your mobile device, or you can actually access them as a web page. Now, one of the benefits of this type of application is they are cheaper than a native app because all you have to do is to ensure that they are built for different platforms and different devices. The maintenance is simple as you don't have many versions to be maintained, and they can also make use of the new features available on your devices because they are cross-platform and cross-device enabled. They can make use of all these features on any form of application and all that. Despite the fact that they are still accessible through the web browser, you can download them from App Store, Google Store, and all that. And they also have inbuilt browsers within the apps, which you can use to navigate to websites and all that. Now, one of the let's say one of the downsides of it is that because they are cross-platform, you would find some issues. The graphics may not be well or might not perform properly with the operating system as compared to an application which has been built specifically. For instance, for instance, Netflix may have been built specifically for iPhone, and whereby an hybrid app which is built for you can open it on so many devices. So you find that a specific app built for one specific device would work well than an app that is built for so many devices and so many platforms. And another thing that you need to also know is that hybrid apps are slower than native apps because of this because they can be used across many devices and operating systems, and they're not generally device or operating system specific. Now, there are different types of mobile devices. We spoke about different types of mobile apps. We're now going to talk about types of mobile devices. Now, we have the real devices and we have the emulated devices. Now, emulated devices are devices that are not real, they are virtual, they live in the cloud, but they help you to perform actions as if you are working with a real device. Now, as a tester, for you to test an application that is being developed on a real device, you would have to test it on different types of devices. There are, hundreds of devices, hundreds of browsers, hundreds of versions of. For instance, for Apple, you might have because the work of a tester is to ensure that an application is built and works well across many devices and many operating systems. So it makes it harder for you to be able to test on thousands of devices and operating systems. Now, there's a lot of efforts while testing on numerous devices. It is inexhaustible because of this large number of things you need to test on, and it's also expensive. So, for instance, if you are on a project or if you are in your workplace and you are developing an e-commerce app, and the product owner now has to get Apple iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, Samsung S1, S2, S3 up to S10. And apart from getting all those physical devices, they need to now start looking at mobile browsers as well. Different versions. So for instance, there are about, I think there are about over 24,000 different versions or 2,000 different versions of Android devices and all that. So it makes it very expensive to be able to acquire all these devices and operating system just to ensure that the application being built works perfectly on them, and then they can be rest assured that the customers will be happy with the application and all that. And one of the things that imagine you shipping out a product to customers, and these products are unusable. Imagine the kind of effect it will have on the company. So it's quite important that quality assurance is maintained, and is actually that quality assurance is maintained and achieved on the product that is being shipped to customers, and all that. Yeah. So for emulated devices, as I said earlier, they are virtual devices. They are not real. They live in the cloud. But one thing about them is that they have a big list of different devices or operating systems or versions. Now they are open. Some of them are open source. Some of them are paid versions, and you could get free trials for them. One of the advantages of them is that they are open. They are easier to use. So before I continue on emulated devices, so imagining that you as a tester, you would have to test an e-commerce application on a real device. So let's say you start with iPhone 5, you'd have to record all the steps and all the logs and do reports for each of those devices for every device that you use. So if you have to repeat the same action for 10 devices, you can imagine the amount of effort you would have to go through to achieve that. But with emulated devices, which is hosted in the cloud, all you need to do is to, maybe generate, uh, open up a list of the devices that you want to run your test against, load up your test cases on them, and then run the test cases against them, and on a click of a button you generate your reports, you generate all your logs. It gives you it captures your screenshots, and then you're done. And then every now and then that you have to run these reports, kind out a regression test to ensure that every of the functionality on the app is working. It's on a click of a button. But for a real device, you'd have to physically run these steps against these devices, and and which is not ideal anyhow. Now, for one of the downsides of emulated device is that because they rely, because you have to download them, or because you have to log on to the internet to use them, the speed relies on the speed of the device or which you are using, or the web bandwidth which you are using. And one other disadvantage for them is that they cannot simulate whole human interaction, and sometimes they give you false reports. And another thing is that real life scenarios like changing color displays. So you want to check whether your application is accessible when in the sun, or when the light is bright, or when this light is dimmed and all that, or when it's very hard for you to do this on an emulated device, or when you just want to, or you want to simulate a telephone call coming through, and looking at the performance of your application against that kind of interaction is very hard because it's an emulated device here. So these are the kind of things that are disadvantages for using an emulated device as compared to a real device and all that. Yeah. Now, we look what we're going to be talking next is about challenges, importance, and criticalities of mobile app testing. Now, it's important that we know what device we need to test. So, as a tester, you need to be able to understand what you need to test. Now, there should be careful consideration of what is required and a combination of, and one of the things that you should also do as a tester is to have a combination of real devices and emulated device so that you provide enough coverage, which is critical, which is important before the product is released, and which minimizes defects as well. Uh, because one of the reasons why you should do this is because apart from using a emulated device, which gives you a good coverage of and spread of device versions and operating system, it's also important for you to understand how your device will work on how your application will work on real devices here. So you need to list down you need to have a list of devices you need to test your application on. You know, you need to have an understanding of that. You don't just go onto the cloud or onto the uh, mobile application testing tool and then run your application against everything that you can find there. You need to have a list. You know, this list has to be documented in the requirements document or the acceptance criteria. And right, so one other thing which is important as for you to know as a mobile tester is what device version is important. Now, depending on the target environment and business requirements, uh, uh, te a tester needs to have an understanding of the version that they are going to test the application against. It is of no use where you take an outdated version of an app of a device and test your application against it, and you'll find out that a lot of emphasis will be given to newer versions and newer devices and new operating system because that is what is in vogue. You remember that when we looked at the different types of mobile platforms and device types, you would find out you know, Android and iOS devices are very popular and in demand. So these are the kind of versions and operating systems that a product owner or a business would have to concentrate their efforts on. It's not like they would ignore or not test other versions, but because of the market demand and because of the popularity of these devices, a lot of emphasis will be made on them to ensure that the application works perfectly well. There are no issues or or defects is minimized to as reasonable as possible on these devices and operating system. Now, you need to understand another important or challenges that you might face is network connectivity. Now, localization leading to offline, online, weak signal. So these are the kind of things that you need to consider as a tester. How would my application behave when there is no network connectivity, when I'm online, when there are weak signals, or how would the application behave when due to lack of connectivity, or when I'm switching between one provider to the other. So these are the kind of things that you need to consider as well. Your test cases needs to be built around all this, you know. So as you rightly said, you have to know what devices you need to test, what version you need to test, the connectivity or the localization effects on your application that you need to test as well. These are the things that builds up your test cases, and you need to ensure that there's a link between your test cases to the requirements being set up by the business for you to achieve optimum quality assurance here. Now, different apps types play an important role in mobile app testing, resulting in an app being tested in different ways. So, for one of the things that you need to understand is that an e-commerce app will be tested differently to a financial app. in the sense that financial app are more they have each these apps will have different data sets that you'd have to set up to test them, and also you'd have to also consider things like risk-based testing, you know, for them. So depending on the kind of application that is being provided or is being built, you'd have to ensure that you have sufficient test cases that actually cover the functionalities as well as the non-functional elements of these apps as well. Another challenge is or importance or criticality is settings and configuration here. As I said earlier, there are about 24,000 different types of screen sizes for Android. So it's it's quite important and it's quite challenging for you to be able to have an exhaustive test case that covers all the various screen types for Android and iOS operating system. So there's a need for you to understand what you really need to test, what is important for the application to work successfully, what is the what does the business wants to achieve in terms of the application, and what is their what are they concentrating upon and all that. So you need to understand all this as a tester to be able to get to be able to do your work effectively here. Now another thing is that you need to have an understanding of the kind of mobile testing tool that you want to use. There are so many mobile testing tools out there. You have Apium, Source Labs, Calabash, and CTS and all that. So you need to be able to have an understanding of what works best for my scenario, what works best for the business. One of the expectations of a mobile tester or a tester is to be able to provide or information about an application or a tool that can be used. So you are expected to be able to say, these are the tools that are in the market, these are the kind of things these are the tools that we can adopt, give them, do your research properly, give them the advantages of a tool over the other, and, to be able to achieve the aims and objectives, and also to be able to do your testing properly as well. Just below me. Now, what are the best practices for mobile app testing? Now, as I said earlier, you need to have a testing strategy. You need to know what you are testing. You need to devise a testing strategy that helps you to lay down certain guidelines which you are expected to follow. And apart from having a testing strategy, you need to make it uniform and ensure that it gives you adequate test coverage. Now, so what is a test strategy? A test strategy is an high-level plan that details what you are testing, your test environment, your tools, the approach to which you are going to do the testing, and also the objectives as well. Now, you need to also have an understanding of testing on real devices. As I said, these are very useful in testing early stages of development. So there should be a mix of both real devices and emulated devices here. Now, you need to test on real devices that are realistic and give you a better idea regarding the look and feel of your app and its general usability. So, as a tester, you need to be able to understand how will my application work on an actual device. So you need to experience how will a customer, what kind of experience will a customer have holding a physical device in their hand and using the app. And then you can also use this as a gauge against the emulator to see the actual difference and to be able to have a kind of a kind of report and all that. Yeah. Now, it is also good for you to start testing as soon as development starts. This helps you to identify issues. This is more agile. Because as a tester, you need to be agile in that you need to test first so that um, uh, um, you can be able to report bugs as soon as possible for them to fix them. This is very, very cost effective, and this makes work easier, and you can then track results through the life cycle of the testing phase and all that. Yeah. So the earlier you report a bug, the more easy for the developers to fix, rather than you um, uh, starting your testing at the end of the development, which might be very expensive because the application has been built, and and you don't want that to happen. So it's very important that as they develop the application, you start your testing early. The developer is able to go back to retrace their steps back, a short distance, fix the issue, test again, and then progress as they move on here. Now, another best practice is you have to set your device and operating system preference. I talked about this earlier. This has to be aligned with business requirements. Business might say they want to test on Apple devices. It is your work as a tester to know which devices are out there in the market. During your refinements and backlog grooming session, you need to be able to talk about how you can enlarge the scope of your device preference and operating system preference for you to be able to achieve your test coverage and all that. Yeah. Now, automation testing is also important. This reduces time and gives you a high return on investment, and it also helps you. It gives you a good benefit over repeatable testing. But one thing that you need to keep in mind is that when you are setting up, I've seen a lot of automation testing frameworks that are not maintainable. You need to devise, or you need to be able to build a framework that is maintainable and is easily adaptable for you to use at any point in time, and for other things as well. Now, as a mobile tester, you need to adequately carry out performance, stress, and security testing. We'll be going into that in a short while. You need to understand the performance of your application. How will the application perform in under stress? For instance, if you have uh, uh, if you have a betting app, and you are in a stadium where they are playing football match, and there are 1,000 people using the same app at the same time, how will your application react under that kind of stress? You need to look at security testing as well. If you are testing an e-commerce site, can someone easily break into that web app, and hack it, and then buy goods and services without paying for it? Or if it's a banking app, can people hack into that app, transfer funds from one account to the other? Those are the kind of things that you need to check as well as a tester. And but it's very, very critical, that you look at the performance as well. Performance against battery life, performance against compatibility with other applications on the mobile device, uh, performance again with regards to configuration and settings and all that. Yeah. So, and interoperability as well. I've covered. We just talked about this and all that. And one other thing that you need to look at as well is, as a tester, best practices is that when an application is being downloaded, how long does it take to download? For instance, if you are downloading or installing the application, for instance, when you are installing the application, your battery dies, and then you come back with the application. Will you have to start from the beginning? Those are the kind of things I need to check as well. And the last thing, ensuring your app is truly global. You have to check about the usability of the app. How easy can do they does your app have voice function to for people with impaired vision? These are the kind of things that you need to look at for people with can you increase the fonts of your app for people that can't see properly? Accessibility, usability, they come into importance while you're doing the testing of your mobile application here. Now we'll quickly go into categories of mobile testing. A lot of the things that we do in mobile app testing includes functional testing, checking the functionalities of your application as per the requirement specification. For instance, if the requirement is to log in with, if is to log, if the requirements of the application is that when you log in with your credentials, it should bring up a page. You need to ensure that it does that. Or if you move one item from one corner of the application to another corner, does the application respond as per the specification given by the product owner or the business analyst or the business here. We talked about performance testing. Performance, covers a wide variety of things: stress, overloading, server performance, application performance, network performance, so many other kind of performance, so many other kind of things. You can also look at how would your application behave when you scale up the number of users. That is performance testing. So, for instance, how would my application behave when I have 5 users? How will it behave when I have 100 users? And how will it behave when I just move from 1 to 100 users? Is it going to crash, or is it going to respond as required? Then you also have to look at the memory as well. Now, when the memory of my device is running low, how will the application behave? Will it work perfectly well? Interruption testing is also important. As I said earlier, SMS interruptions, call interruptions, low battery warnings, and all that. We've talked about installation testing as well. Usability testing, we talked about that to check the efficiency and the effectiveness and the satisfaction given by your application, and also accessibility testing for people with impaired vision and hearing as well. Now we'll look at mobile testing tools. As I said earlier, there are so many mobile testing tools out there in the market. One of the leading ones is Appium. It's an open source cross-platform test automation framework, which you can use for native, hybrid, and mobile web application. Now, so this works with this works using Selenium WebDriver to be able to crawl on the mobile device and the application. It drives, so you can use it for both iOS and Android devices. Now, for you to be able to use this device, you don't need to understand. You don't need an understanding of the inner workings of the code. It's a black box testing tool. So you don't have to. You don't need. You can use the application to gather elements from the. You can use the Appium to gather elements from the application so that you can then write your tests cases to be able to run the test on the application and all that. And you can also use it with different frameworks and tools of your choice. As I said earlier, it is based on Selenium and interacts with the user interface of your application. Another one that is also very popular is Source Labs. So this one is a cloud-based testing tool for both native and hybrid application on Android and iOS. It relies on Appium open source projects, and it supports scale testing on Android, iOS, and emulators and all that. what we are going to do as part of this mobile testing session is we are going to look at source labs in future uh, sessions and see how we can and see what we can do with it. We'll do manual testing on that, and then it's also an open source. It performs. You can use it for both testing on open source as well as commercial framework and all that. The other one that we're going to talk about tonight is CTS Cloud. CTS tool is designed by Experitest and provides automated and manual mobile app testing on iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone, and on real devices and emulators. Yeah. So it is used for both UI testing and continuous integration environment, and it's a fully commercial tool.